Not yet. All right. Just speak up for me. Mic check, Miss Sore.
Yes, not yet.
Perfect. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Molweni Diabolisa. My name is Uyamkela, properly known as Yameazi. Those who know me know that Ndigo Yameazi. And I come to you, man. I come to you. This is Keeping SC Radio. We are live on Keeping SC Radio Facebook, Keeping SC Radio YouTube channel. All right. Today it is the 27th of March, 2023. And I always come bearing gifts. Okay, let me just adjust here quickly. Perfect. All right. So I can't bring gifts. You know me. I never come here alone. As much as some of you may be asking, why? This is the urban age. We come here to learn. So knowledge. We come here to put things into perspective, to answer questions, to educate. We don't compromise there. We make sure that we educate and we bring proper guests in studio that will be also assisting us within the education and within just putting things straight up into perspective. All right, before we introduce our guest, let me just say thank you to our crew, our 6 to 6 crew, for coming through with the social crossover this morning from 6 to 9. Boop, 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 boop. And let's just say thank you to Quacks as well for the jump off from 9 to 12. And then after that, Lady P with the invasion came through. And I was joined with her at some point in life because we were doing a mic check. So she was with me and we were kind of, doing as a mic checks. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, let me do a formal welcome to my guest here. Her name is SONAE MOPP. She is a social worker at Kononia, at a Kononia organization. She is specializing in the drug and addiction unit or department or section. I don't know what to call it, but nonetheless, she's here and she'll be educating us. She'll be showing us the ins and outs of what happens in a rehabilitation center of that sort. Before all, let me say, without further ado, Miss MOPP, do you introduce yourself to my guests? Sorry, to my listeners at home, and tell them why you are here.
Hi everyone. So I'm SONAE MOPP. I'm currently a social worker at Kononia Recovery Center, which does provide long-term treatment. So what is it that I do?
Yes. Tell us your role, Sune. We understand that there's a lot of broad things that happen, or broad, let me say, sections within a center of your sort. So tell us what you do and what you're all about. What is your role?
Okay. So I am also a case manager that I work specifically in the female section.
Yes.
So I only deal with females. And in that, I also provide one-on-one counseling with my cases that I have. So I do have a caseload of females that I work with.
Yes.
So in that, it depends also on, because our program is quite a busy schedule, there's a lot of certain things that I do. So I don't only just provide one-on-one counseling. We also provide groups and classes, just to provide, education to them as well, and also to keep them busy.
All right. Interesting. So can you just tell us or break down what are your challenges? Sorry. What are your goals? Before we get to challenges, let's start with your goals and your objectives within your drug unit, because I'm pretty sure that as a unit, you do have certain objectives you want to reach in the future and goals you've set before you actually deal with your patients.
Yes. So the first thing obviously is what we call is we move from a culture of addiction to a culture of recovery. And in order to do that, there's a lot of things that we need to look at. So first we look at what we use is our CBT, cognitive therapy, that we use because we believe that everything starts within your thinking, your mind.
True.
The things that you think about then reflects on how you will behave.
Yes.
So in that, we use that method that we use in our organization. So within that said is that the importance that we look at is we've got a program. Okay. So our 12-step program consists of different sections. So in that, what we do is, I don't know if you would want me to go through our program that we do daily. because that will also give like a
you can give us a summary of
yes.
the ins and outs of it. You don't have to get into it, but
Okay.
you can give us a summary of it. You never know, there might be someone out there who's interested to know that
Yes.
information. Yeah.
So obviously we do have, because people be like, what are they doing?
Mhm.
What do they do to keep them busy? So obviously we, like I said, we have our wellness, we have our groups, we have our classes, and then we have our counseling also within.
Yes.
So that is what we do to, you know, just engage them into learning that there's certain addiction patterns that we need to understand that what causes them to behave a certain way. Yeah.
Etc. All right. Thank you so much. Now now, SONAE, we can't run away from the fact that drug abuse, substance abuse is a thing. It's a common thing that we go through, or that, let me just say, our communities go through on a daily basis. Now, how do you approach addressing the matter of the causes of drug abuse or substance abuse? Because it's there, it's a common issue, and that is why your organization is existing. It's existing for exactly such things. So how do you address the causes of drug abuse?
So what we look at is also, you can look at like our iceberg model.
Okay.
The iceberg model focuses basically on there's maladaptive behaviors. Like for instance, someone that's in denial, co-occurring disorders. That is our biggest challenge actually.
Sorry, your biggest challenges?
Co-occurring disorders.
Co-occurring disorders.
So that
What
is
does that
like
mean?
our mental illnesses.
Oh, okay.
Like personality disorders, schizophrenia, all those things. So we do have a challenge with that, because that goes like hand in hand with addiction.
All right.
So we'd find like at least 80% of our residents does have co-occurring disorders.
Yes.
Yeah, so in that there's different things that we look at that causes people that's in addiction, because we look at that substances is just a symptom, and what we look at behind is there's things like dysfunctional families. If someone comes from a dysfunctional family, you know, things like that, trauma, all these things play a big role where people, where they don't know how to cope. So the instance is, what they do is substances, because you'll find that many of them self-medicate with substances. And especially like with the, like I mentioned, the co-occurring disorders, that you would find that some of them need to be in treatment on a medication, but because they don't follow that, they would lead into, you know, substances that will help them, especially like marijuana. It's the biggest gateway drug that we know, that people uses it to calm them down,
calm themselves down.
but
Yes.
actually what you don't realize is that most of that there's people that go into psychosis where their reality is not the reality that we are living in. And
True.
in that we know that marijuana can make you go into psychosis, and then it's things that you can't even recall what you were doing.
All right. You know, I just want to, before we get to the next question, well, it is the next question, but I think I need you to define addiction for me, because people out there could be listening to this interview and listening to you go on about all these big terms, but let's just take it down a notch. Let's bring it back a bit in terms of what is addiction, because there's people who are addicted to things but are not aware that they're addicted, because outside of drugs, there's also alcohol abuse as well. It's drugs too, because it does take you out of your you know. So I need you to define addiction for me, and then so that people understand that whatever it is that they're doing over, you know, consuming alcohol, over consuming drugs, they are actually addicted. So they need to know today that by what you are about to tell them, they are actually addicted, or maybe they're not. So just clear it out for me. What is addiction?
So addiction is obviously, it's something that you don't have control over.
Okay.
Where you think you have control over it, but actually it has a control over you.
All right.
Because it's like you repeatedly doing the same thing over and over. So it's like someone in addiction will be like, oh, I've only used like one and twice, like 1, 2, 3 times. But actually,
this is now someone who's addicted.
Yes.
Yes.
So in that, when I'm relating to substances, that means that you do have a problem. The fact that you can't live without it means that there's a problem.
Mhm.
If you're using it to cope for something, that means that there's an
There's
addiction.
definitely a problem there.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you were wondering wherever you are, whether or not you might be addicted or not, how she explained it definitely pans it out. So if you find yourself going back to something over and over, like one or two or more times,
Yes.
that proves as addiction, especially if it's substances or alcohol. If you find yourself going back and to cope, not just maybe to have it for certain reasons that aren't coping mechanisms, but they need to know that if you find yourself now coping and taking this whatever substance it is, whatever alcohol it is, then that substitute as addiction. Am I right?
That's completely right.
Yes.
And the thing with addiction, because it's a term that we're all aware of, but there's so much deeper in when it comes to addiction, and that's where we come in.
That's where you come in as an organization.
Yes, provide long-term treatment, because also what we see is it's not just the addiction itself, but there's a behavior that presents itself.
Yes. All right. Is there a way in which you guys sort of alleviate drug abuse, like amongst, let's say, groups and communities outside of the people that come to your center or approach your center to sort of admit that they have a problem, or have a family member come and say, no, this person has a problem, please help them? So is there a way outside of that that you and your team help people to prevent this drug and substance abuse?
Because our organization provides substance abuse and addiction, so it can be any substances,
okay,
or any type of addictions, because remember, you get different types of addiction. You get sex addiction, pornography addiction,
true,
shopping addiction,
shopping addiction.
Yes.
I wonder what that entails, but anyway, yes.
Gambling, those are the things that we also looked at is addiction. But what we find more is that substance use is the biggest challenge.
The biggest one, yes.
That we are facing.
That you are facing. All right. Next question. Can you take us through any positive, let me show myself. Can you take us through any positive outcomes or success stories that you've had so far within your organization? What do you call it? Koinonia. Yes. Any success stories you've had through your Koinonia organization that people can proudly say that because of Koinonia, I have gotten better with this or that? Because it's not only the drug department that's there, there's other ones as well. But because you are here to represent the drug and addiction one, so take us through your success stories that you've had within your department.
So what I would say is that when someone at least reach 9 months or a year, that they do then want to become a volunteer. So we had actually quite a few volunteers
from the people you were that were there. All right,
interesting. Program that became a volunteer. Some of them actually became staff recently.
All right.
So there is where we say that our program does work. So in that, because when you see someone that wants to volunteer and give back, we actually help them to promote themselves to be getting back into reality as well, because we know that because we provide long-term treatment, that it can quite be a very long period of time that you're isolated from the reality around you. And in that, some of them feel that they can't go back to their community, because you know that could be a trigger for them.
And it might as well lead to relapsing as well.
Exactly. So some of them feel safe that they can actually become a volunteer and give back into the community, and that way they rebuild their character again and becoming,
and also being ready to face the world as well.
Exactly. So I would say that there is many of our residents that actually went through the volunteer process, and some of them that are staff currently.
That's absolutely lovely, SONAE. And you know what? It's also a motivation for people out there listening to know that when you take someone to such an organization as yours, they can come out with yielding positive results, especially if they're gonna still want to now give back to the same organization that assisted them in many ways than one. So now we understand, SONAE, that an organization such as yours upholds ethical standards. Ethical standards such as confidentiality, consent, because doctor-patient confidentiality is a serious thing, and you guys deal with patients that are going through a lot of issues, mental illnesses, this and that. So how do you guys navigate through such, especially talking about confidentiality and consent.
Yes. So with that, especially, it's very important that we uphold with the confidentiality,
All right.
because as we're all aware of the Puppy Act, that we do keep that, that we are aware of that. So in that, especially like depending on the type of confidentiality, like what I do is I have to provide feedback towards the family about the
Okay.
residents. So I do give feedback on how is the progress, how are they going, how are they doing. So we do that, but in that there's still confidentiality with keeping whatever they share with us, that we do keep that safe, because we know that ethical is very important.
So let's say now there's a scenario. There's a boy or a girl, and then they were taken to the organization by a parent.
Yes.
And now the parent wants to know deeply the things that, out of concern, any parent would be concerned to know about the well-being of their child.
Yes.
So now they approach you, considering that there's ethical standards of confidentiality on
Yes.
some. Please help us know what is actually going on. What is wrong with this boy? What do you do in a case of that? Because
Yes.
they actually want to know, and they have a right to know, because they're the
Yes.
ones who took
Yes.
this patient there.
So what we do is we also provide like family sessions.
Okay.
So at a period at least 3 months, because within 3 months they have to present their life story. So in your life story, you do then get feedback with regards, because you present it in front of the community, which is the
Yes.
other residents. So in that you present your life story, and in that everyone needs to give feedback. We look at your blind spots, we look at your facades, and we look at the focus areas of your recovery. That all then list it all together in what is it that we see in your life that you need to focus on while you're in recovery. So in that, as the person has presented, we do then go through that feedback that we send to the family, so that they can be also knowing what is the core issues that they face.
Not necessarily sharing every single thing that you've been
Yes.
through, or you've spoken
Yes.
as a social worker to your patient,
Yes.
but the key ones, they have a right to know
Yes,
about those
they
ones,
need
because
to know what it is that caused. Because remember, as much as the resident was going through this process, there's also the family that plays a role.
of course, and the
So-
family probably was the ones who took him there or took her there, so they saw the initiative to get this person help, so they
Yes.
deserve to know information regarding this
Yes,
person.
and we do provide, like I said, family sessions where we have one-on-one sessions with the family together, where we discuss their progress. And also we have our locus assessment. It's a assessment that we base on the level of care that we do with regards to their progress. So that is also a tool that we use to also help the family to engage into the treatment process, that we do have certain methods that we use, not necessarily having to tell them
every single thing that your
Yes.
patient shared with you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, SONAE. That is absolutely insightful for even people out there who are experiencing a situation of individuals who have children who have different problems and who are admitted to the center. So now, SONAE, do you ever have a case of someone actually admitting themselves? I know people who are addicted don't really want to admit to their addiction. They're just like, no, I'm fine, I'm good, until they realize they've lost everything in their lives. So now they want to take a stand. So do you ever have a case where someone actually comes to you guys and says, I'm here and I need help. I am addicted to alcohol, this drug, that drug, and my life is falling apart. I need to fix it.
Yes, we call it voluntarily admission.
Okay.
So that means that someone is voluntarily giving consent that they want to be there. And then we get involuntarily, where they have been court sectioned by law, which they need to go through a process of where by law then they have to be admitted. So then we go to court, they are appearing before the magistrate, and they have to sign the court document. Then they have to be there at least 6 or 12 months, depending on the report that then's being submitted. That we work also with the private social worker that deals with the court sectioning specifically.
So now, who monitors their ins and outs? Because if you're saying that they were summoned by the court to come to your sessions, then surely that means that they didn't want to willingly go there.
Yes.
So now, who then monitors if they are going there, they are attending their weekly reports, this and that?
Yes. So what happens is, let me take you through a process. So the family goes then to this private social worker,
Okay.
and then give the information, and she will compile a report then, which is being submitted to court. Then in that, because we are under the Prevention and Treatment Act of 2008, if I'm correct. No,
Okay.
no, yes, of Act 70 of 2008. Sorry, because we are registered under that act. So by law, because we know that substances are illegal substances, that you are then a danger to yourself and your community. So in that, there is the process of someone that knows that their behavior is so erratic that they are out of control, that they will have to be in a place of safety. And that place of safety means that they need to be admitted at a recovery center.
At a recovery center.
Yes.
Lovely. I just want to know. So now, of course, there's rehabilitation stages. What are the ways in which you, as an organization, support these individuals that are now going through the stages of rehab? Because I'm
Yes.
pretty sure there's 1,000 stages before someone gets to that point where they say, "I am healed." So, how do you guys assist them? How do you support them as an organization?
So let me first then go through the admission and screening process.
Okay.
So that is where the family calls saying that this is the situation, there's a problem, I need my loved one being admitted.
Yes.
So that is the first stage, the screening, and then we assess then what is the problem that they are facing, and then they go through the admission documents, fill that in, also the fees that needs to be paid, because there's also financial situation that you also need to go through.
Okay.
And in that, when a person is then being admitted, because we provide long term treatment, our program is at least minimum 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So we do provide an extension from 6 to 9 and from 9 to 12. So they can't leave before 6 months.
Okay.
So our program is long term.
Are there any specific extramural activities that you guys have there? Because, like I said, there's 1,000 stages of rehab, and you don't just get to that stage where you literally can say I'm healed. You go through several stages, and drugs are not an easy thing. So when you take someone away from something they are so used to, there's a lot of things that they go through. They shake, they do this, they do that. We've watched movies, we know these things. So we know that it's not an easy task to be taken away from a drug that you felt like was sustaining you. So what extramural activities, and I'm asking now for the purpose of anyone who has a family member or a friend who they would like to admit to your organization or any other similar one. So what I want to know the activities.
So what do they do?
Yes, what do they do?
Okay, so let me then go to our daily program. So on a Monday, we have like classes.
Okay.
So we have a class for 45 minutes. And then after class, we have a wellness slot. So this is where we also have a wellness coordinator on site.
All right.
That then does wellness exercises with them. That's also at least 45 minutes.
Okay.
And then in that, they also do where we call gardening work, where they basically have to take care of their surroundings. So they do their duties, and all those things. And then also we have like where we have meetings, like climate meetings, where we have confrontational about what are the behaviors that we see that's happening in the camp and those certain things. And so those are the things.
Those
that
are
we
the
look at.
activities going on. And nice, interesting. Mapulapuli Emakaya, if you've just joined us, we are joined by SONAE MOPP. She's a social worker at Kononia, at a Kononia organization. She specializes in the drug unit and addiction. So that is why we're having a conversation about the ins and outs and the causes, everything that pertains to drug addiction. And so she's giving us a background education about what goes on there, the activities, how they deal with cases of someone who has admitted themselves, etc., etc. So I hope the information that she has given you, you've noted it down, because it's very important. We deal with these matters on a daily basis, where we have an individual who is addicted to drugs, because they are here, they are at our disposal on a daily basis. So no one would really know whether or not they're addicted, how to deal with such, until their life has literally fallen apart. Am I right?
That's correct.
That is correct.
And it's really it's actually a very challenging, if you look at it, because we don't see it as a job. we see it as a calling,
Mm.
because you're dealing with people's lives that comes from a really broken place.
Mm.
And because of that, we are then there as a support to navigate them back into society.
Mm.
And one of the things is that we focus on a culture of addiction to a culture of recovery.
Mm.
And that's very important, because most of the things is that they don't want to face themselves. So now you found yourself in a treatment program where you are sort of like forced to look at what is it about myself that I need to change in order to not fall back into my dysfunctional, behavior
Self.
and
Yes.
patterns and all those things.
Mm.
So it's really challenging, because it's where you have to confront a lot of things, and you
A
have
lot
to
of
be
these
honest
things
about
with
yourself.
yourself.
Yes, yes.
That's true. All right. Before we close it off, we're not closing it off yet, ladies and gentlemen. But I just want to know, looking into the future now, what are your most crucial or pressing priorities within your drug? Let me just put it this way. What are the most pressing priorities going into the future? Within the drug prevention, the treatment going forward, that is there or existing to assist your patients going forward?
Well, we know one of the things is that we need actually long-term recovery centers,
Okay. Long
because
term, as in more than the 9 months you spoke about.
yes,
Okay.
because we know that most places then provide just like those 21 days, and and halfway houses where you go from a place, like also a place of safety,
Mm.
that provides also that keeps them safe. So that's a different separate program. That's like outpatient treatment, because we are inpatient. So outpatient treatment means that they can still go to work, do their life,
And go back to the
and go
center.
back to that place of safety. And that's something that we actually really need, is a place like halfway houses. And most of the places are very far and actually quite expensive. So if you look within our Eastern Cape, that we actually need places like halfway houses, safe houses, and all those things.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So if there's anyone out there who's listening and who would love to reach out and offer these long-term houses, I think they should come forward and approach you guys, because you are doing the work of the Lord, basically.
Yes,
And
true.
you are saving people's lives. And imagine now someone who fully now is invested in this. They go to work, they do their daily, they do their daily things in their daily life, and then they come back and admit themselves in this program, knowing very well that they need the help to carry on.
Yes.
And it also caters for people with families. I'm talking like someone who's going through this, but let's just say is addicted to something, but is a wife
Yes.
at home.
Yes.
So they you're saying they can let's just say that out there would be a long-term program where it caters for them, so they
Yes.
can live their daily lives and also go back to the program.
Yes, yes, because we know that with substance addiction, well, addiction itself,
Mm.
it's so easily to fall back
It's easy
into
to
those.
relapse.
It's really easy to fall back into those patterns, and those are the type of things that we actually teach them. That you need to be aware of your triggers. You need to be aware of your warning
That's true.
signs. And what we do is, like, before they exit our program, there's a reintegration plan that we go with them, go through with them, and we also call it the LRP, which is our life recovery plan. That
Okay.
basically is a plan that we need to know, what are you going to do? We need to know who's going to be the people that is going to be accountability, who's going to be the people that you go to support groups for. Because we also have support groups that we actually currently exist within East London. So we also do provide that as well for families and people that's in addiction.
That are going through addiction.
Yes, yes. So
Nice.
in that, there's a lot of support that we do provide for those that's in recovery.
All right. SONAE, you spoke about co-occurring disorders.
Yes.
And does anxiety, depression pertain to
Yes,
those? All right.
yes.
I assumed.
Yes.
Not that you said anything. So now let's talk about those. And people don't understand mental health. And I know this interview is not basically merely about that, but I want to touch on it because
Yes.
as much as this is about drug addiction and so forth, but people start doing drugs because they are going through depression, because they are
Exactly.
anxious about a lot. This and
Yes.
this is going on. Now, how do you deal with a situation of someone who is depressed and who is addicted to drugs because of the depression they're doing? Is
Yes.
there sort of like a treatment? Do you give them pills? Do you give them what happens there?
Mm. So what we know is that most people are actually diagnosed, but then they went on their treatment for a period of time
Okay.
because they've been self-medicating with substances. So when they come within our program,
Mm.
we need to know any medical information because we do have a medical sister that is on site, but
Okay.
we don't provide we don't prescribe medication.
So you merely just get a report from someone who's obviously trained to do that, which is a doctor, and then that doctor gives a report or writes a report for the patient,
Yes.
diagnosing them of the depression or the
Yes.
anxiety.
So what we look at is that some of them will be then on medication, and then we will then have to get a script from the doctors, the psychiatrists. So we do also make them be able to see psychiatrists and psychologists. We don't have them physically on our premises, but we
Yes.
do work with their psychiatrists and
On their field, sorry, on their respective places.
yes.
Mm.
So what we see is that when we see that there's symptoms that they do display, that we do refer them. And then they then help us then be able to identify that there's certain symptoms that leads to a diagnosis.
Mm.
So you would find that there is some that's not diagnosed yet that does display symptoms. And then there's those already that when they come in with the information that we get, that they do have a diagnosis. So in that we make sure that they then do see a psychiatrist and a psychologist on a regular basis. And in that they then get medication, and then they do get medication on a daily basis as prescribed.
As prescribed.
Yes.
Nice. All right. Thank you so much, SONAE. That was truly informative, and just this interview as a whole. Now, I just need you to give advice now to family members that are currently hoarding. I'll say hoarding because you can't throw a person away.
Yes.
You have family members within your family who are addicted to this,
Yes.
going through that, diagnosed with depression,
Yes.
anxiety, this and that,
Yes.
and they don't know what to do with themselves. And now I think you need to give advice to people and make them understand how to coexist with these people.
Yes.
One. And two, how to help them get through such issues, because these issues, people going through them feel like it's the end of the world.
Yes.
They feel like they're not making sense, hence the rising number of suicides in the world.
Yes.
So to now alleviate these suicides, to sort of make them believe in life again, what advice would you like to give, firstly to the people that are living with these people and to the
Yes.
people living with these conditions in total?
So what I would say is because we have a website,
Okay.
to always reach out to our website. It is on www.canoniarehab.co.za.
www.canoniarehab.co.za.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so that is our website that you can go online, and also there is where you can then provide your information, and that will then send an email to us, and then we will be able to reach out. And we also have our support groups, as I mentioned, on Monday evenings at 6:30 from 7 to 8. We have the Nahun Methodist Church that we use, and the Kanubi Methodist Church. And then we also have in Buffalo Flats the Trinity Church, Baptist Church, that we also provide support groups on Mondays. So that is from 6:30. So in that, we would encourage families to do attend the support groups, because in that there is a place of safety where you can be able to share all the challenges and the concerns that you have relating to substances. And it's not just for people that's in addiction, but it's also for people that is in support of those that's in addiction.
So they need to, so they need to sort of know how to deal with such issues, what to do, where to go, who to consult, and how to coexist, like I said, with these people. All right. Is there anything else before I close that you would like to add?
Not something specifically. I would just encourage to to not keep quiet. I think that's something that, because when it comes to substances, and there's just a stigma that goes on people that's in addiction, that really it's really people that's broken and that needs help. And I would just say that don't give up on your loved one, someone that's in addiction, because addiction is it's a demon, actually, that it robs you, it robs you from everything, and it robs you from your relationships with your families. So I would just give that advice to someone that has someone that's in addiction,
that's going through this,
to know that there is help available, to really just reach out. And it's not about what people would say, it's not about what it would look like, but it's more that we need to treat whatever this is in order to get a life of recovery, to move that from that culture of addiction to a culture of recovery.
Thank you so much, SONAE. I couldn't have said it better. Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to the end of the show. It is 9 minutes before we say 7 o'clock. Yes, it's 9 minutes before 7. So that means it has come to the end of the Urban Age. Would like to thank SONAE for joining us this evening and just sharing with us such insightful information about drug recovery, drug rehabilitation, and of course, drug addiction. And I would like to say, just to add as well, that going forward, if you have a family member who's going through such, do not give up on them, but rather try to find ways to help them, because SONAE suggested ways, and she's trying to show as well to the world that such things happen, but also there's solutions to such things. That means that you can alleviate such problems, can get rid of such problems. And the same person who was going through such things can now be able to be the same person who gives back to the community and teaches. Some people who went through drug abuse and drug substances and this and that are now public speakers today. They literally stand up there and they speak so proudly about how they were once here. I was once addicted, but look at me today, by the grace of the Lord. But not just the grace of the Lord, but also through treatment. You need to go to these centers that SONAE works in and talk about these things and get the help. Talk to social workers, go to doctors, see psychologists, etc., because, ladies and gentlemen, whether we like it or not, these things build the future. And we know that it's such things that the youth goes through. The youth is always under attack with drugs and alcohol, but because there's such centers and such organizations, the future is bright. SONAE, thank you so much for joining me in my show, and once again for just sacrificing your time to come to the Urban Age. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here, and next time just know that you when you go out there and talk to people, you're actually giving hope to people. People know that they can actually get help with this, and they know how to navigate that, and there's people like you who can assist with such things. So don't give up and always just keep pushing.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to go through the comments, but I don't have time. 7 minutes before I close the show. And thank you so much also for engaging. And someone said, you go, SONAE. I don't know. It's I don't know how to pronounce the name, but her surname is Kutsia. I think it's
Marika.
Marika, yes. Marika said, go SONAE. So she's definitely a huge fan of you. And yeah, like I said, go SONAE. And don't give up. Keep pushing, keep helping people, keep giving people hope. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from me, from the Urban Age. See you next week, Wednesday. So basically April, good birthday month here. But 4th April, just put it out there. So make sure that you wish me a happy birthday. From me to you, I would like to say